No.
Am I right, Jit?
No. No, that's not correct. Anyone else? Correct answer gets couple movie tickets.
Actually, he has to mention the page block section. In that, he has to work out the block table.
No, see, his issue is he has written code, it's not throwing error, but it is not displaying any data. Now think on those lines. From page block section and all that stuff, that's correct. But it's not displaying
in fact,
data.
Jeet, I was actually facing the same error while I was trying to fetch the details of opportunity. That time I was having some issues. But what I did, I tried to change in the first column of Apex column. Instead of name, I wrote opportunity.name, but it started to throw some error. But when I changed it again to name, it started to work.
Okay, it has got
Actually,
nothing to do with
I
your
got
name.
it. Like,
What is it?
the standard controller, he has not given the context.
Yeah, what is that? Sneha, you were saying something?
Standard controller is not given the context, he has given the account. That's not? Okay.
But he is trying to display the child records of accounts. So that part is also correct.
Okay. Okay.
Someone
The rest he has not used the...
Yeah, what is that?
Okay. Only the thing is record set where he has not used.
But he does not need a list of accounts, right? He wants to display contacts from one account.
Yeah. Got it.
Two sessions we have done standard controller. You guys have forgotten everything on standard controller. What is the most important thing to see data on standard controller?
Detail?
No. If it is one record, how will Salesforce understand which account are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's...
So what you're saying is I had to put the ID.
Yes, correct. Because we are talking about a standard controller which is used for one single record, you have to supply the ID. As simple as that.
Yeah, Rohit had mentioned about this actually in the morning. I was discussing the same thing with him.
So then you did not try putting the ID?
I could not try actually.
Achha. I thought you said that, Rohit, you don't know anything, I'm not going to try that.
I actually said that as well.
Okay.
यही बोला था.
Right. So just try putting ID. So whenever it's a standard controller, see, we have a very simple logic. We are putting a standard controller, we have not used a record set where, which means I'm going to deal with one single record. That is what we have understood, right? Now the moment it's one record and you see the URL and there is no ID supplied, how do you expect data to be displayed, right? There is no error in the code. If there was an error in the code, it would have thrown error, right? But now it's not throwing an error also. Got it?
Right. Jeet, one more thing. This is the the screenshot that I took for this particular thing. So I could not see amount label over here.
Right.
Sorry, amount.
Yes. So when you don't see amount, the label thing there, you have an option to put a label. Which page was this? I will just do it on my this thing and I'll show it to you on my Salesforce login, and I will show it to you.
Okay.
How that can be done. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So
thanks. All right. Okay.
Alright. So quick thing is
Jit, actually I tried to connect the list of child record with the ID of the account, but it is not showing anything.
Okay. How is that possible? Okay. You want to share your screen? Let's see what is the error.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, we all will look into the issue that Suresh is facing, and we'll try to get the issue, error. Okay. Yeah. Supplied the ID. Still it's not showing any data.
Yeah.
Can you open that account?
Question mark, there is no ID.
The ID that you supplied is for
No ID.
okay, you are copying ID of an opportunity, man. Take the ID from an account. Accenture, I don't think it has contacts. Again, we have to take an account where we have contacts. Go and see. I don't think you have a contact under this. Take something,
Burlington
yeah, some existing account, Burlington or something. Take the ID.
This is Burlington I used.
The URL, in the URL you don't have after ID after the question mark.
Question mark ID equals to, that is again one more issue. Question mark ID equals to ID
Oh.
equals, now press enter.
Yeah, got it.
Got this?
Thank you.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Any other issues? Any more struggles with the Visualforce pages? Otherwise, it is very simple. But yeah, these small things. Once you get used to it, I think you will get over all these. But otherwise, you must have realized that it's pretty simple to write Visualforce, and more you practice, more you get hang on it. Okay. Fine. Let me now log in into Suresh's account. Suresh, please. I think I remember your password now. I don't need to type. Okay. So today, as I said, we are going to start talking about custom controller. So custom controller is basically where we will write our own logics. Okay. And for writing these logics, we need one more language. Visualforce, as you have seen, is a markup language. It can only be used for the markups and all, right? So the interface, how it's going to look, what components you need on the interface. That is what Visualforce is capable of doing. But now, since we need to write our own logics, we need a proper programming language. Okay, a language where we can write our own logics and stuff. So the language which we are going to use is Apex. Okay. So before I start talking about custom controllers, I will talk about the basics of Apex. I just want you to understand some basics of Apex, which will help you understand the custom controller, how it can be formed and all. So I want you to understand Apex a little, and then we will get into custom controller. Okay. So today we are going to talk about some basics of Apex. So here is my screen. Okay. So before I start talking about basics of Apex, tell me how many of us have not done any programming ever in life, or does not know anything about programming? Yes, no, quick type on the chat window.
Yeah,
Has done someone.
myself, I didn't done any programming.
Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't done any programming.
Suresh, no programming. Ankit, no programming. Okay. Who else? No programming. Who has done? Who has not done? Please type it quickly in the chat window. Okay. Rohit, done long time back. Equivalent to not done. Okay. Who else? Rohit on Java and Oracle. Okay. What others? Praveen, long time back. All right. Vijaya, done OOP long time back. Okay. Great. So some people have not done it at all, and some people have done it long time back, right? So that's good. So now, okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to make programming very simple. Okay, so don't be scared of programming in case you have done it long time back. you might have had a bad experience with programming language, but we'll not let that fear come in between your learning. So we are going to make it very simple, and we are trying to keep this programming part very simple. Okay, so we'll do with examples as we have done for Visual Force. Same sort of examples we are going to do for Effects, so that you can catch things quickly, okay, and you understand things properly. Okay, so there are very few simple concepts which I'm going to discuss, and you will easily understand those. Okay, so people who have done programming as well, don't go by all those complex concepts of programming. Don't go into all that stuff. Don't think about those. Let's just keep it very simple here. Okay, so in programming, basically, what do? We write instructions. Okay, we need to give some instructions. Okay, and we define a few logics. Okay, we do a few comparisons. Okay, so this is what we basically do. We write certain instructions based on some logic, we do some comparison and all that stuff, right? Get some input, give some output. So this is what we actually we are going to do in the programming thing, right? So there's one simple thing which we would require here is a variable. I think we all understand what a variable is, right? Irrespective of whether you have done programming, not programming, but you know what a variable is, right? So variable is a very important component of any programming language, right? So you write certain variables and then you compare those variables, and based on the result you do something. So that is how it happens, right? So let's say my variable is X, okay, and then I want to write a logic here. I want to instruct my computer. Just give me 1 second, 1 second please. Hello. Sorry. Okay. Right. So we were talking about the variables, right? So I was on variables. So variable is basically variable is a variable, right? So it keeps on changing its value. So that is the reason why we call it variable. Now let's talk about a very simple logic. I say that there is a variable called x. If the value of x is more than 50, then I want Salesforce to do this. If the value of variable is less than 50, then I want it to do something else, right? So variable concept is clear. So for programming, whatever code we are gonna write, variable is a very important component. Okay, so that's fine. Now when we are talking about this variable, we will have data types also for the variables, right? The variable, either it will be an integer, or it will be a string, or it will be a date, or it will be a date time, right? So it has to be something. That variable has to be something, right? So data type, the way we have data types for our fields, the same way we do have data types for the variables. Okay. So first thing that we have to understand, we understand that programming, while we are talking about programming and while we are talking about writing codes, we definitely are going to deal with some variables. Okay. Second concept is variables do have data types. That is also pretty much obvious, that if it's a variable, it has to be of some data type. Either it will be a number, or it will be characters, or it will be date, or it will be email, or something, right? So first thing that we are going to do here is we are going to talk about the different data types which are available in Salesforce. Okay, so we are going to learn about the data types, what all data types we can work with. Data types in Apex, not Salesforce. So data types that we can use in Apex. Okay. First data type which we can use is called primitives. Okay. So this primitives refers to the normal data types that we use anywhere else. Like it can be integer for numbers, it can be string for characters, date, time, a boolean which returns either a true or false. So boolean is basically something which will either return a true or false. So there is a decimal, okay, and then you have something like okay, apart from all other data types. So similar to any other programming language, primitives are the normal data types which are used in any other programming language. There is one more which is called ID. Okay, ID is a data type which refers to, this is very specific to Salesforce or Apex. It refers to the record ID. Okay, so we can define things like integer I equals 100. Okay, or string color equals red, or ID AID equals, here you can write the record ID, something, whatever is the record ID. Okay, so ID is also a data type which we can use as a primitive data type in Apex. Okay, apart from all these all integer, string and all these things are very common. Any other programming language, these are there, but ID is very specific to Salesforce. Okay, so this is one thing. So primitive is one thing. So while we are talking about primitives, we are just talking about the normal values, which can be strings, integers and all this kind of stuff. Correct? Now the other thing that we have is, apart from primitives, the next thing that we have is S objects. Alright, S object basically stands for Salesforce objects. Okay, so this refers to the records. Got it? Salesforce object records. Okay, let's say I tell you that account A, okay, is a variable. Okay, now account A is not a single value, right? Account A has a lot of fields inside it. An account record has a name, it has a type, it has an industry, it has a revenue, it has a number of employees, so many things, phone, fax, right? So when you want a complete record to act as a variable, then you call it S object or Salesforce object. Okay. So for S objects, whatever objects we have, all those objects can be data types, like account A equals a new account, name equals IBM, industry equals technology, right? So this is a different type of variable. A is a variable from object account, from S object account, where the name is IBM. Okay, this is a new record, which means this is at this currently it is not in the database. I am supplying the value for it. Name equals IBM, industry equals technology. Got this thing? Same way I can have opportunity O1 or whatever. Okay, so I can have opportunity O1, new opportunity, and I say name equals op1, amount equals 40,000. Got this? So we are understanding, what we are talking about. So the other data type is S object. Okay, so this is something which is related to our Salesforce database. Same way, what you can do is you can also define records like account A equals, you can write a query for this as well. Select name from account where name equals, let's say, Dell. So name, type, industry from account where name equals Dell. So here we are defining a variable from the account S object, Salesforce object, which already exists in the database that we are talking about. Got this? So this is the second data type. So we have talked about primitives and we have talked about S object. Okay, so an primitive data type is a normal data type, the one that is used in most of the programming languages, and it refers to a single type of data into that primitive variable. S object refers to a record from any of the Salesforce objects, right? So whichever object you are talking about, you just have to define that object name as the data type. Opportunity O, like here I say string color, so the data type of color is string. Okay, but while you are dealing with S object, because there are so many Salesforce objects, you just have to give the variable, and before that you have to define the name of that Salesforce object. Okay, so that is how simple it is. Okay, now there's another thing which is called list. Another data type, the third data type which we are going to use here is a list. Okay, so a list is basically an ordered collection of primitives or S objects. Okay, so list refers to collection of primitives or S objects. And how do we write a list? It can be like this: list of string, say colors equals to new list of string red, green, blue, pink. Fine. So this is how a list of primitive can be defined. Same way, while I'm talking about a list of S object, it should be like list of account. I'll give it a name. So this is more like our record set where, remember? So here I can say select name, type, phone, fax from account where industry equals energy. Right, so now this list accounts is going to be a list of this is going to be a list of records where the industry equals energy. All the accounts where the industry is equal to energy. Got that? Clear? So that is what we have here. Okay. So I'll talk more on this list thing in our next session. Now we will do an example so that we make sure that we are not talking too much of theory at once. So let's do a small example and see how it works, okay, so that you can easily relate to what actually is happening. So before we get into an example, there is another thing that I want you to understand. First point, are you clear with these data types at this point of time? Do we understand what all these things are? What am I talking about? You have understood, right? Okay, great, very nice.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ajit, just want to understand about the list part is whenever we will mention this list string colors, is that probably we are actually introducing this red, green, blue, pink, whatever the color will be in the form of list, or we are allocating these colors as a list to anything, or we are probably say we are checking for about the account part is we are selecting these details as a list. I mean it will display in a form of column and rows. Should I take like this?
No, try to understand this. List is a variable, okay, so sorry, this colors is a variable, okay, and the data type is list. So this is a list of strings, alright. Now this is something which does not exist. That is the reason why I have supplied the value from my side. I have given all these values from my side, okay. For this second example, I have selected a list which is already existing in the database, right. So while you are writing programs, you might need to deal with both the scenarios. Sometimes you supply the value from your side, sometimes you fetch it from the database, right? Got it?
Okay.
So now this, for this line colors, it becomes a list of strings. So colors, the value of this becomes a list of values. So what are those values? Red, green, blue, pink. Correct? So 4 values are inside that colors variable now. And ACTS is something which is getting its value from the database. So I'm not supplying the value from my side. It is all automatically getting it from the database. So I'm just retrieving it from the database. Fine. So both the options are available. Either you supply or you take it from the database. Okay. So this is one thing. Now the second thing that we are going to do is the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to start creating a custom controller. We will create a custom controller and we will use these data types here. Okay, whatever we have learned. But before we can use a data type, I have to tell you a small concept, one more small concept, that is of a class. Okay. So for people who don't know what is a class, for people who know what is a class, very good. For people who don't know what's a class, let me just tell you in a very simplified manner. So a class for you is a collection of variables and methods. Got it? So for you, a class ideally is a collection of variables and methods. So a class usually contains some variables and certain methods. What do you want to do with that variable? What will happen to that variable? And so method is basically what we want to do. Variables are definitely, the variables need to be there. So a class is used so that we can call this collection anywhere we want, right? So in Visualforce, what we are going to do, we will first of all create a class. First thing which we are going to do is we are going to create a class, put our logics in the class. So whatever methods we have, 10, 15 methods, whatever the variables you have to define for executing those methods and all, we will put in a class, one combined thing, and then call the class as a controller on VF page. Okay. So we are going to create a class, put our logics in the class, and then call the class as a controller on the Visualforce page. That is what we are going to do. Okay. So let's see an example, a simple example. You will understand this. Go to setup and then go to develop Apex classes. Then click on new. Okay. For today, you just follow this, whatever I am writing. Okay. Gradually, you will start understanding everything. So put this thing. So before you can create a class, you have to define the name of the class, and we will make it a public class. Call it C1. So C1 is the name of the class. Fine. So what we have done, we have defined the class. Okay. So ideally your class, when you write a class, it should contain name of the class plus certain variables should be defined plus some methods should be there in the class. So a class has name of the class, variables and the methods. Okay. So let me say string, let me define a simple thing, hello equals hi, how are you? Now the method that I need for this variable is a getter method. I want to display this value on the page. So there is a method called a get method which I'm going to use. So whenever you define a method in in Apex or in any other programming language, you have to define what that method is going to return. What will that method return? I want my method to return the string. I want the method to return this string on the page. Okay, when the method is called, it should return the string value. So the value is string. So it will return the string. So we'll just go public string and say get anything, get h1. Okay, so this is the method name. What should this method return? This method should return the variable hello. That's it. Okay. Now on the Visualforce page, once you call this method, this will return hello. And hello is a variable. Actual value of the hello right now is what? Hi, how are you? Okay. So just go with this simple example. Don't get into complex thing right now. So I have, as I told you, that a class should have the class name, it should have variable, it should have a method. So we have used a simple variable, we have used a simple method which returns the string. Absolutely fine with that part. We are okay. We will just quickly save this. Done. So my save is done. Now what am I gonna do? I will just go to a Visualforce page. V13. Okay. Just click on create page V13. Okay. So here what you have to do, you have to call that class as a controller. I cannot keep on calling one method, right, that way. So for that reason we have defined a class there. So I'm gonna call that class as a controller here. What is the name of the class? C1, right? So just write controller equals C1. Now once you have called that class as a controller, you can call whatever methods you have defined there. So you don't have to call the complete method name. You don't call the variable directly. So understand this. You don't call the variable directly. You will call the method. That method will return the variable. Correct? So what is the method name? Get h1. So you don't need to put get part in the Visualforce page. You can just put h1. That's it. So this is how you will call it from there. Just go and click on save. See, h1 calls returns the hello variable, and the value for hello I have defined is hi, how are you, right? So got the connection part? Did you understand how things are connected? So you write your code. Okay. So you write your code or whatever logic, whatever your variables, methods, everything in the class. Call the class on the Visualforce page as a controller. So because this is a custom controller, I'm not writing standard controller. I'm just writing controller equals to the class name. And then we just call the method here. Cool. Clear? So that is what we have done. A very simple example. Alright. Tell me if anyone has a question here, not able to understand or something.